What is going on, fam? What is crack-a-lacking? Good day, good day. We are back here today. Is Nutrition Tuesday. So we are gonna make sure that we are live. Let's just make sure we are live and you can all hear me loud and clear. Because today's stream is going to be very important for us to really understand what is going on because there's a lot of information and misinformation that's out there. And a lot of people are getting misled. So we want to make sure that everyone knows what is today's stream is going to be very important. Can you hear that? Okay, so I promised myself that I don't want to make the same mistake that I've made before, I think 2, 3 times where I start recording and only later to realize that I actually don't have audio that's on the stream. So today's topic is why I would never take GLP-1s. So first of all, I worked in insurance and I want to explain and help you understand why I would not take GLP-1s for weight loss. And this is including Reta, this is including Ozempic, Trizipatide, you've got Wegovy. So any of these GLP-1s or semaglutides, because right now there is a big trend that's like going on across the entire, I think, world actually, because people have been told that if you take these drugs, it'll help suppress your appetite. And by suppressing your appetite, you'll be able to lose weight. And for some people, they actually don't have weight to lose, but they just want to get really lean. So they're actually going on and taking these GLP-1s and semaglutides. And so this is Ozempic again. Very common. Trizipatide, Reta, those are very common um, GLP-1s. And then you also have like some of the peptides like the BP157 and all the sorts of different synthetics. So they fall under the same group of things that I'm going to talk about today. And these are GLP-1s. I think probably should have added peptides and peptides. I think I should add peptides too. So we are actually going to add GLP-1s and peptides. I think that will actually make it actually more truthful because I actually group peptides in the same category and peptides. So we're going to include that as well because I think it's important for us to actually discuss this and peptides. So we got that. So peptides, we've updated that. We're going to come back and update our title. Because I'm going to share with you a few things. Because these things are going to be very important for you to understand and fully grasp. So I really want to make sure that people have a good understanding of what actually happens behind the scenes, because a lot of times we think that things just happen organically, but things don't always happen organically. And right now, there's a big issue with peptides, Ozempic, Wegovy, and this was back in, if we're taking back the clock, this was around 2020 when 2020, 2021, when Ozempic sort of just came onto the market around the pandemic time. So what happened was I was working in insurance, and we would see like trends within the market, within the healthcare industry and health insurance industry. And one of the things that we would do was to pick out like some of the top drugs. So we have these reports that we call specialty drugs. And these specialty drugs would cover drugs that treat autoimmune conditions. So these are like biologics, essentially. So you have autoimmune conditions. So things like, let's say, cancer. No, cancer is not autoimmune, but things like Crohn's, things like um, rheumatoid arthritis. And you'd have so many different conditions that are covered. And you'd find that these drugs would cost anywhere more than 10,000 per year for someone to be on these drugs. And for diabetic medications, it weren't necessarily considered specialty drugs, but the cost for diabetics, depending on how much someone is taking, the cost could be more than 10,000 per person per year. Could be like 15, 20,000, depending on what the prescription is and the dosages. And one of the things that we saw that was a bit anomalous was the spike in Ozempic and GLP-1's and semaglutides, essentially. We'd see like semaglutide. And the issue, it raised alarm bells because the systems would flag, say, okay, what's going on, like what is this, right? So people started investigating, and we figured out that the industry as a whole, throughout, there was a spike in claims for semaglutides, and this wasn't something that a lot of healthcare plans were necessarily structured to cover, because the semaglutides would be prescribed for lifestyle conditions, or I can't even call them conditions, but for essentially you can call them lifestyle conditions. But lifestyle conditions would be more so things that can be fixed through your diet, through your exercise, through things, how you live your life. And then you have a classification for medications that prescribe because you really need them, man. Like this is like medical, it's medically necessary. Like someone could actually lose their life if they didn't take that medication, or their condition could get worse, and comorbidities and all that sort of stuff that could happen. So this became a big thing for us to really understand, like within the entire industry, how we're going to manage this. And one of the things that stood out most importantly was Ozempic itself was only approved to treat, this is in Canada specifically, was only approved to treat people with diabetes and not weight loss. So again, people that were taking these medications, they didn't necessarily have diagnosis for diabetes, right? So this became very apparent very quickly. And so a lot of the insurance companies realize that, okay, this is not the way that it should go. There's no like a real way to manage this, because anyone would just go and say, okay, I need to lose weight. Okay, I'm just going to take this drug. So I know people give insurance companies flack a lot of times, but this is important to understand, because in this case, it's not always because, insurance companies don't always want to pay, but there's also wording that's protecting other various issues that could come with it, like the liability around it. So it's also like on their part, they have to be responsible and comply with what the government also says. So it's kind of like they work in tandem, right? So people don't like it. People think that it's not good and insurance is bad. But at the end of the day, I've personally seen cases where it's actually good, because the main thing when it comes to things like insurance, it's people don't think that it's not necessary until they need to use it, until the bill comes, until they run into that issue that requires them to use insurance, or where insurance could help them. Because again, like people are not necessarily getting paid millions of dollars to cover these costs just out of pocket. So insurance does help, and people do get sick, and people do need medication, right? And again, let's specify this video again is for entertainment purposes only and just general educational purposes. This is not medical advice for anyone. This is information just I'm sharing from personal experience and personal opinions. And this is not to tell you to say, hey, don't take GLP-1s. And this is to just say, hey, this is what I saw. This is what I think. This is how some of the stuff works. But it's just to help educate you. If you have a condition, you have to go to the doctor, you have to go to a professional physician and a qualified physician and talk to them and see if whatever you're dealing with is requiring any medication or anything. But I'm speaking specifically to publicly available information that's out there. So I think, we've gotten that disclaimer out of the way. So what I wanted to just really emphasize again is that, when we look at insurance, when we look at medications, when we look at like reality of life, is that people do get sick. People do need support because costs keep on going up. And one of the driving costs to medical and medical insurance is prescriptions and drugs. So even for you, if you're watching this, like you have a health plan, you complain about the cost of your insurance. Like when you use these medications for like lifestyle things, your prescriptions and frequency of taking these drugs and the dosages that you take, they also contribute to the cost of your plan. And people in your workplace might complain, say, hey, why is the cost for a health plan going up? But it's also because you're using a lot of those GLP-1s or peptides or whatever it is. So you are contributing. If you're just taking these for, let's say, lifestyle conditions or situations and circumstances. And these are specifically for people that actually have type 2 diabetes, not for people that are trying to just lose weight. And so this is number one thing that we have to establish, right? So what I want to show you is actually from the website itself, the Canadian website, where it talks about the GLP-1s, how they are to be used and how they are not to be used, right? Because this is important for us to understand, because if we don't understand this fundamental thing, we're left in positions where we're just being influenced by a lot of these people that assume that everything is okay, everything is permissible. All right, so we want to understand what exactly is going on. So I'm going to share the screen with you. Right. So let us see if we got everything good. Okay. So I think we got everything good. We can see that over there. So one of the things that we want to do, oh, yeah. So right now, this is the Canadian website for Health Canada, right? So this is a drug and health product portal. And this is the official Canadian website. And I'll show you just to make sure that we cover this. And people don't come after me saying like, oh, this is, I just pull this out of my out of my head. No, this is official. Okay. So right there. So this is the official Canadian website. where it talks about drugs. So this is summary basis of decision for Ozempic, right? So right now we have, okay, summary. This is Ozempic. So usually medications would have like a drug identification number. So this is what insurers would look at like when they're seeing like these spikes and claims. And they would understand like, okay, this is, semaglutide, this is Ozempic, this is what it is, right? So it would tell you like, okay, it's like 1.34 milligrams per mil semaglutide, and then they would know like, okay, it's Ozempic. So this is like the active ingredient in some of these medications. So this is what you look at. So as you see here, right? So this was, yeah, so this was 2018 where they wrote this up. And they said that, the market authorization was based on quality chemistry manufacturing, non-clinical pharmacology and toxicology, and clinical pharmacology safety and effectiveness information submitted. Based on Health Canada's review, the benefit risk profile of Ozempic is favorable for the once weekly treatment of adult patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus to improve glycemic control in combination with diet and exercise in patients for whom metformin is inappropriate due to a contraindication or intolerance. Right, so metformin, when diet and exercise plus maximal tolerated dose of metformin do not achieve adequate glycemic control. So this is more like a substitute for a first kind of like line of defense to help with people that are suffering from type 2 diabetes, which again, some people argue that you can control your type 2 diabetes using fasting naturally. So this is all information that's out there. I'm not, creating this stuff, but it's officially on the websites. And yeah, so this is pretty much what I wanted to just highlight for us to understand, because a lot of people tend to disregard the use case for some of these medications, because what happens as well is that these medications, when they first initially do their trials, they're doing it based on a certain test group, right? So test subjects. And one of the things that I wanted to point out is like, okay, so when you're reading this, right? So we're right here. So Ozempic was studied in a limited number of patients, 75 years of age or older. So, and then yeah, the next line says the safety and efficacy of Ozempic has not been studied in pediatrics. So this is under 18 years of age populations. Ozempic is not indicated for use in pediatric patients. So again, when we look at this information, clearly this is for like people who are like 75 years of age and older. So there is this group between, let's say, 18 to, I mean, definitely like under 18, like there's nothing that's saying that, pediatrics should take Ozempic. And what you want to understand, like sometimes again, if we're coming back, like we're using Ozempic, we're reading Ozempic here, but the active ingredient in Ozempic is also an active ingredient in other GLP-1s with semaglutide, right? So that's the important thing to understand, that the name can change, the brand can change, but the active ingredient remains the same, the semaglutide, right? So this is what then becomes consistent. This is a thing that you have to keep in mind. So based on this information, as you can tell, like people that are like under 75 to, let's say, yeah, anyone under 75. Right now, the people that are taking the semaglutide are the test subjects, just the general population. So you don't know what's going to happen. right? So like some of these people, some of them were reported to have like a GI issues, so gastrointestinal, so like the stomach, the colon. So the issue, because it's suppressing your appetite and suppressing your hormones as well, for you to be able to feel hungry and be in touch with the cues of your body to say, okay, it's time for me to eat. So these are the things that people are not talking about. And some of the influencers that are pushing this, they don't study this. They don't understand some of this detail. Maybe they understand, but they choose not to talk about it. So it becomes a big issue with people because now they're becoming guinea pigs. And who knows what's going to happen for people that are still trying to have kids, people that are still going through puberty right now because some teenagers are taking these peptides and these drugs. And the issue again, it's like, okay, it hasn't been even wait, let's say 2018, hasn't been 10 years for like the 75-year group, older than 75 years. Hasn't been 10 years. So we don't know if cancer is an issue or something to be concerned about. Plus, the 75-year-olds, who knows if they actually live to 85? Because this is the thing with some of these studies, if they're using that group, because naturally life expectancy, if they're already at the edge of life expectancy, the cause of them passing on might not necessarily be linked, or the illnesses that they end up developing. They might have comorbidities already. So, meaning that they might have other conditions already, and which the doctors might then say, like, no, this is not the issue, right? It's not Ozempic. So, there is still so many unknowns, like practically, like so many practical unknowns that people don't actually know. So people have to take note about this and take it seriously, because if you haven't had kids, or if you're planning on having kids, you don't know what's this going to do to your fertility, to your hormones. Because the moment you include a synthetic, right? Because naturally your body may or may not produce certain hormones and certain chemicals. And sometimes when you're told, like, okay, these peptides are good for you because they'll help you do XYZ, and your body naturally produces that hormone. It's also not necessary. I mean, that particular peptide, it doesn't mean because it's something that your body produces doesn't mean you putting synthetic additions of that same chemical doesn't mean that your body will respond the same way, because your body has a way to regulate. It knows if I release, let's say, 5 milligrams, it knows when and how to manage that 5 milligrams. But when you add 20, now it's confused. Now it has to overcompensate with other chemicals and other processes, right? So our body's already intelligent. They know how they should function. And we also know, like, if you're to improve anything naturally, if you're trying to increase your peptides, it's like, okay, eat more protein. Okay. Because peptides, again, building blocks for amino acids, and amino acids building blocks for your protein. So these are things that you can break down and say, okay, my protein, okay, how do you maybe stimulate the production, the synthesis, protein synthesis? Maybe it's through exercise. Maybe it's through diet. Maybe it's through sleep or recovery. So these are things that you have to think about. You can't just inject something and think that, okay, it's just going to work, because some of these medications are intended, and your body also understands, again, like the amount. Let's say if it's like someone who has a specific condition, if they do get, if for whatever reason the doctor says, okay, get this medication, it's because there's a certain function that your body is not working the way that it should be, right? It doesn't mean that it's the best way to do it. But in the case where the body's under stress, then maybe this drug can help with reducing the stress. Does it mean that it's a solution to everything? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Talk to the doctor. But it might or might not be. We know that they're natural things that do help and support, right? So for me personally, as I've as I've worked, I've seen like healthcare plans, I've seen claims experience with like different groups. I think like over thousands of claims experience packages, renewal packages, and claims experience. I've seen thousands and thousands. So, me seeing those and also understanding how some of these drugs through like pharmaceutical companies, how they sort of put certain, you know, guardrails, and also like with the government, how they put guardrails to protect the population. I also realize that these are important conversations that people need to actually understand and the general public. But then the issue is that a lot of people, like, even when they say, like, okay, my health insurance is not working or I'm getting declined, it's because they don't understand sometimes what their coverage is, what they actually covered on their healthcare plan. And also, they don't understand maybe the wording of what's covered, what's not covered, the types of medications that they have covered and how they should use it, because it's all written in the coverage booklet and the wording. So you may have a benefits plan that does cover lifestyle medications. So even if you do have that, right, even if you do have it, does it mean that you should go ahead and use that medication? It doesn't. Because, I mean, well, I'm saying it doesn't, but you still need to talk to your doctor, by the way. But for me personally, I'm talking for me, from my perspective, I wouldn't do it, right? I wouldn't do it. And let me at least maybe help with this a bit as well, because I think this is again like a very important thing for us to really understand the implications of just jumping the gun and following trends, because people are telling you like this is the thing to do, like this is the in thing. Because if you just follow the trends and just go with it, like it's not going to end well. Honestly, like it's not going to end well. You have to really pay attention and understand you specifically, like what are you going through. And you have to realize that, okay, so if I'm just looking to lose weight, GLP-1s are not the answer, because the problem is still going to persist, right? Like you have to understand that the problem continues to persist, especially when you don't pay attention, because you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to this. Okay. So the first thing, what people need to understand, right? Like the question is that, okay, you want to lose weight fast, right? And because you want to lose weight fast, you are going to sacrifice something. You're going to try and buy your way to losing weight and remove weight on the scale. But the issue again is that you still need to have the habits. The injection is not going to get the habits to just fall in place. And the structure, the diet plan, the meal plans, your diet, like that has to get cleaned up. Just as we saw, like with health, the government website there, it talked about how even if you're to take these medications, you still have to include diet and exercise. You have to treat everything with diet and exercise. Because if you don't treat with diet and exercise, you're going to run into so many issues. And when you run into so many issues, it's going to be hard for you to understand exactly why you're back in the same spot. Because what we're doing here is looking to become healthy. Health is the goal. Health is the goal. So the first thing that we need to really understand is that the issues that we're facing now is that, first of all, we're not moving, right? If we're not moving, like I went through this, like I was during like the pandemic, like I wasn't as active. I faced this. I put on weight, and the weight that I put on, it wasn't bad. Like during the pandemic wasn't bad. After the pandemic, I was like, okay, let me actually go and start working out. And by working out, I I realized, okay, I want to shred, but I was like, okay, I'm confused. I want to shred, but then I don't know if still have muscle because I haven't been training for like 3, 4 years. And then I was like, okay, let me just bulk. And after I bulk, then I have a crazy cut and I cut down. So that's exactly what I did. Along the way, I got injured, which was okay, but I still trained. And for me to gain weight, I also had to actually eat more food than what I was used to. And at that time, I did eat, junk food. I would have my ice cream once a week. I would have like my Five Guys. I still had some of these foods, right? And they actually boosted me and helped me gain more weight and just like, having a bit more calories in the week. Let's say if I would eat healthy, right? Let's say Monday to Friday, and then maybe on a Saturday or Friday evening, then I would have my cheat meal, and then boom, right? And then I go to the gym, I train, and then I'll put on some weight, and then gradually I got to like 200 pounds, like for my frame, like that was too much. Like I was just like, nah, okay, I was struggling. I realized like, okay, I'm struggling. But that process, that journey, it made me realize, what someone else might be going through that's actually gained that weight. And the urge and this taste, because there's a point where you just get your taste buds used to certain tastes where it's like habitual, where you're like, I just want to taste that, the sugar, I just want to taste that, the fat, the salty fries, the Cajun fries from Five Guys. I just want to taste that in my mouth. And so you really get to the point where you have adopted a certain palate, and that palate just drives you to just crave more. And even when you feel certain ways, you're like, oh, that thing will make me feel good. I understand. So it's like there's a point where you're climbing, you're climbing, and then you get there. If you train yourself, because people who are overweight, I mean, some people might have medical conditions, but some people have just trained themselves to become overweight and fat without knowing it. Without knowing it, you actually legit training yourself. Because for me, it was very hard because I was like, how does someone do this? Right. And they feel like they can't just lose weight, they can't just go to the gym. It only dawned on me when I realized that, oh, wow, crazy. So you actually have to train yourself. There's actually work to train yourself. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's this, but to get fat actually takes work for you to get fat. It takes work. It requires effort. And I would argue it's probably just as much effort as losing that weight. Because you find people who say, oh, I'm skinny, I can't put on weight. Because both people, at the end of the day, they have to train themselves. They have to train their mind to say, okay, one person has to say, okay, I gotta eat more. Another person has to say, nah, I gotta stop eating this much food or have to make better choices to lose weight. So it's consistent. It comes back to the habits that you form. So if you eat emotionally and you've trained yourself to reward your emotions with food, that's not something that a drug can just fix all of a sudden, because it's a habit. It's not just, oh, my appetite is low, right? Because you're suppressing that emotion. You have to reward that emotion somehow. So if you just think that, okay, I just don't do anything, I just let go and my appetite is suppressed, The issue is that when you suppress that hunger using synthetic, you will realize that there's going to be a point where that hunger comes back. That emotion, you can't just bury it with an injection. You can't, because it's going to come back. If you're an emotional eater, that emotion is not just going to go away. You can try and trick your hormones and trick your brain, but your body knows. Your body knows. So you have to take this seriously. Like I took this seriously when I found this out, right? So, and I realized because some of these drugs, right, as I've sort of seen the backside is that, and I've coached people, I see that the drugs themselves, they don't come with like the counseling, the coaching to really understand mentally, to say, okay, if I'm going to feel, because you're tricking your brain with the injection, right? So you have to really break it down and understand that, okay, if I'm going to try and take this injection, like my brain also has to align with what this injection is going to tell or try trick my body into believing. And your emotions need to be fixed, like the root of those emotions that were driving you to eat. So these are things that you have to really understand before you start even thinking of taking a semaglutide or taking any sort of like GLP-1 or peptide, because the issue still remains the same. You cannot medicate what you refuse to rebuild. So you have to really think about this and realize that this is more than just like uh medical. I mean, not necessarily medical. If you need medical attention, you need it. But it's not necessarily just a drug thing that you can fix with a drug. Just to say, because I think people have talked about how, the pill, just the magic pill where you can take and then you just lose weight. Because people are sort of like pushing these GLP-1s and peptides as if they're these magical drugs or magic pill that'll just help people lose weight all of a sudden. So it's important to really understand this and take this into consideration. Take this into consideration, right? So people, again, like they think that the moment that they lose weight, because people tell them that, I mean, like it's true, right? You have the BMI index, which tells you like, okay, if you're overweight, if you're not overweight, if you're obese, if you're not obese, and if you're underweight and all that sort of thing, right? So the BMI scale is one way of trying to understand human health, but it's not the full picture, because you find that there's some people who are considered overweight, but they're also masculine, because the BMI is more like on the general, but the population is very diverse. So it doesn't really cover everyone, the BMI. So a lot of people tend to think that, okay, if I just lose weight, it means that I'm healthy automatically. Whereas it's far from the truth, because sometimes you can lose weight, but if your intestines, your digestion is getting messed up, are you really healthy? If you're going to have issues with like hormonal imbalances, are you really happy? If you're going to have fertility issues, are you really healthy? Sorry, not happy, but are you really healthy? So when you really boil it down, you start to realize that, okay, like I still need to build a good foundation for health, because all of these other things matter, right? Like your cardiovascular, your muscle, your strength, the energy that you have throughout the day, your brain, mental clarity, brain fog, and also just your habits like sleep hygiene. So these are all things that we have to really think about. Like, okay, what is true health? Right? What is true health? Because health is not just about what the scale is saying. It's not just the number on the scale. So the drive to just say, okay, lose weight, just do this and lose weight. Because when people sort of like fixate their minds on the idea of just losing weight on like numbers on a scale, it pushes them to try and do the most extreme thing, because they're not looking at health in its fullness. right? Because everything at the end of the day connects. You cannot separate them. You cannot separate these things. Your fitness, your health, they all come together. They all contribute because your body as a whole is not two systems that are separate or multiple systems that are separate. It's all one unit that works together. So you have to make sure that every system is in tune. Every system is in tune. And so your health, you have to think about like, okay, am I sleeping? Am I recovering well? Okay, do I have enough energy? Am I eating well? Right? Am I training my heart? Am I running? Am I walking? Am I cycling? What are the things you're doing? Are you stretching? Are you recovering and stretching? These are the these are the things that are fundamental to building a healthier life and becoming fit. Because the moment you start fixing all of these things, you become the person who can lose weight without needing the injection. And I've seen it, like I've done it. I've done it. I lost 60 pounds. Like I gained up to 200 pounds. I lost 60 pounds in like 6 months. Boom, done, gone. Boom, done. And since then, like I know my body, like if I get to like, let's say, because I got to like 140, and at 140, I'm like, okay, cool. I tend to get sensitive, especially at a lower body fat. Like I get cold very fast. And so I am like, okay, let me put on a bit of weight. So, I'll get to like 150, 160. And 150, 160, I know like, okay, within a month or less, I can drop down if I want to get shredded. I can do that as well. But I'm in control at this point. I'm in control of, how much I weigh, how I look. And it's not something that I have to really think about too much anymore because I've developed the habits. I know, okay, if I have to do this, okay, this is what I'm just going to adjust. But I'm not straining myself or trying to depend on a pharmaceutical medication because I already see that the formula is already there. And the foundation is the most important thing to build. So, your markers do improve with weight loss, for example. Like, your blood markers can improve. And again, like that's a good thing, right? Don't get me wrong, it's a good thing. But the way that you get there matters more because another thing is people tend to think that, okay, it's about reaching that number on a scale and getting there. And the actual goal is to stay on the journey and be able to maintain. Because a lot of people get to that number, put on the weight, and go back because they didn't form the habits. They don't understand the purpose. They don't understand what they're doing. Right. So, this is something that we have to really understand because the moment someone goes through that pathway where they like, okay, like they lose weight, they gain it, and they don't realize, like, okay, what's the purpose of me doing this? They tend to blame themselves. And they now think that, okay, my body's broken. I'm not gonna make it. It's just not gonna happen for me. So people tend to now think, okay, I just gotta take this injection and it'll fix it. Because mentally now they've convinced themselves that, okay, it's something mental. I have to fix it mentally. I mean, I have to fix it with medication, but they're not taking time to really think to say, oh, wow, like what I need to do is focus on the things that I do on a daily basis. It's not about this one medication. It's not about this peptide. Because the issue again, like, people start pushing this, like the content people make. They're like, take this drug, it's going to help you. Oh, it helped me, and it's going to help you as well. Because some of them are getting kickbacks from the companies that are selling when they push this product. Well, they'll have like they have a dealer, let's call it that. And it's very common when it comes to like fitness, right? It's very common with like different substances for people to achieve certain physiques because they're like, okay, if I get to a certain physique, then I can be an influencer. Then I can, teach other people how to lose weight. But it's not it. It's not health. It's not the purpose of this. Because the industry as a whole, like the way that I see it is, it's just lost its integrity and people tend to abuse the industry because people are not being truthful. They're not some of them don't even understand health. Maybe someone knows how to lose weight using synthetics, using drugs, using steroids, but they don't actually understand how the body functions. They don't understand the biology. They don't understand the chemistry within the body. They understand the chemistry of the drugs and maybe specific functions, what they do to the muscle, but they're not looking at the body as a whole system, as a complex system. They're not looking at, okay, longevity. How long do I want to live for? How long is this person going to live if I coach them and I teach them to do this stuff? They're not thinking about longevity. Okay, how does this person live up to 80, 90, 100, 120? How do you do that? When you don't understand the biology, when you don't understand the chemistry, when you don't understand health as a whole. Because one thing, life is not just all about building muscle or losing weight. That's not what health is about. Yes, it does help. Like that is a byproduct. Those things are byproducts of doing the right things over time. That is the reward that you get. It's kind of like someone saying, I want to be a millionaire. The world rewards the value that you provide. That's what it provides. That's what it rewards. So if you don't have anything that you're providing of value, you cannot just say, okay, now, boom, I've got that $1 million in my account. It doesn't work that way. Unless if you steal. And that's the same analogy here. People are stealing from themselves. People are stealing from their life. There's some part in your life, in your health that you're stealing from by trying to take this shortcut. So you have to realize that it's not about your body being broken. It's none of that, right? Like you have to be aware. You have to have structure in your life, right? Same thing. And you have to practice and be consistent day in, day out, and keep going, keep going, keep going. The shortcuts won't get you there. Let's see, our stream looks like it's dropping some frames. Are we good? I think we're good. We're coming back. Hmm. The frames are starting to drop. Just give us a second. Yeah. Let's see if we'll come back. Let's see if we come back. I was getting to the juicy part here. Then the stream tries to drop. Okay, let's see. Let's cancel this. Are we coming back? Let's see. Give us some time. Let's see if we're. Are we good? Let's see. Yeah, I think we're good. Yes. I think. Oh, it's still cutting out. Let's see. I'm gonna do refresh a stream. Okay, we'll keep going, but okay. So frames are not stable right now, but we will see. Right, let's see if we. Disconnect, connect. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, that's getting better. Hmm. Okay, so our frames keep dropping. Can we get that stream back? Let's see, fam. What is going on? I think next time, I realize what I'm doing. I think my my bit rate might be a bit too high. So I'll drop it next time because it's trying to send so many bit rates. So I think I'll keep going here. Let's see. Let's hope that comes back because I really want us to go through this. Okay, let's see if we can go 6,000 bit rate. Maybe it'll adjust. Okay, let's see. Hmm. Okay, so I think we are. Okay, I think that's better now. Yeah, looks like the stream is now stable. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so again, like I was saying, like we have to realize that we have to be consistent. So it's not about your body being broken, but it's about us continuing to be consistent, building awareness, having structure and practicing and being consistent, like daily on a daily basis. And the other thing is, excuse me, people tend to think that, and this is like consistent throughout, right? Like as humans have continuously because this idea that we just have to do more and progress more in terms of like our health. And by progressing more in terms of our health and changing a lot of things that affect our health, trying to improve them and modify them, it means that we get to a point where we're trying to change the human DNA and our own ability to function as God intended for us. Because the food that we interact with, the bodies, how they interact with food in our environment, those are things already set in place by God. And this idea that we have to keep on improving is a lie. and trying to modernize everything, our food, our medications and everything, because some of it is baked into I'm not trying to get political here, but it's baked into capitalism. And capitalism is good. I support it. But there is a kind of capitalism where people want to profit over other people. I'm trying to find good words to use for this platform, for YouTube specifically. So I don't want to say certain things. So if you see me pausing, making some pauses, I'm still trying to understand, the best words to use to describe certain things. And just so that everyone can hear this, because and again, make sure if you're still watching here, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Help the channel. That is going to help the channel so much. If you show the YouTube that you like this video, like, share, subscribe, please do that. I sometimes I forget to tell you, but please do that. That helps. And if you're on a different streaming platform, like if you're on Rumble, also do the same. Like, share it, subscribe, or follow. And if you're on Twitch, same thing. Kick, same thing. Facebook, same thing. So everywhere, just make sure that you're liking, sharing, and following or subscribing, because it's going to help the platform realize that, okay, more people need to watch this. And because usually if you don't, they suppress the content. So let's get more people hearing the truth, because the truth is what matters at the end of the day. That's what we want to get to people. So, again, so coming back to what we're talking about. So, how this world has sort of evolved has pushed us into thinking that, okay, the quicker I can get to somewhere or someplace, the better it is for me. But the real truth is we are supposed to steward our bodies. And there is a lot of reward that comes from following or doing the things that we're meant to do without necessarily improving on everything that God already created for us. So we have to build discipline, structure, movement, eat whole foods, protein. Those are the foundations that we have to really focus on. Because without this, we're just lying to ourselves. We're living a life that is disconnected from what God intended. And the truth again is that we we now, I mean, especially in the world of AI, is that we're now trying to actively sort of replace ourselves with technology. That's what we're doing. We're trying to replace ourselves with technology and replace our thinking, right? Like first of all, it was like, you're taking these medications, right? And trying to use synthetics to control your biology. And then now you have medication. I mean, now you have AI, right? That's coming into the play. And people want to replace intellectualism and our ability to think with machines. And so these things are taking away more and more of the things that God put inside of us. And we have to recognize that, because the moment we don't, it'll get taken away from us. And we run into bigger problems and bigger issues in the future, because these things are very fundamental to our own identity as human beings. So we have to really make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and embracing the discipline, embracing structure, embracing movement, embracing the whole foods that God gave us to eat. Making sure that we're also like eating protein. Protein is important again. So realize that tools are supposed to assist us, but they cannot become our foundation. We have to understand the foundations. All right, I was reading Job. Job was, I mean, God was talking to Job saying, "Where were you when I set the foundations of the earth?" So there's certain wisdom that we can find in scripture that tells us a lot of these things, that God created everything with a lot of wisdom for us to understand. And we are coming up with our own wisdom and technology, and we're trying to be our own gods, which is far from what scripture says. And Shema law, which says you will not make yourselves any other gods, from the land or in the sea or anywhere, right? God is a jealous God, so you will not do that. That is the law that God set. And if you try to do that, you'll be punished because God is a jealous God. So these are things that are happening in front of us, but we're not paying attention. We're not paying attention. We have to really go back to scripture to understand where are we going wrong, because the answers are right in front of us. We're just not paying attention. It's like there's this cloak, this thing that's been cast over us where we can't see what's happening in front of us. Our minds are being manipulated, and our ideas of the world are being manipulated. And it's been happening for so long, right? Because media is such a very powerful tool that is used to shape our thoughts and shape how we see the world. But when we actually pierce through that, we see that, oh, this thing is just hollow, but it's just a charade on the outside, but it's hollow. And the truth is already within us, within our DNA. God already put it inside us because we're made in his image again. And our souls are what matters at the end of the day. Our souls are the most important thing. And we, as we live in these bodies, we are meant to steward the bodies, be stewards of the body, not all of these things. So this is another reason why I would not go on and take these GLP-1's or peptides, because there's this cloak, this idea, it's a mirage to say, hey, do this, you're going to have these results. But it's not it. That's not it. Right? So pay attention. Some of these things, even like as I'm talking right now, they just come to me as I'm talking to you right now. Wow, look, my stream starts slowing down as I'm talking about this stuff. I think there's something that's always going on. There's always something that's going on. Like anytime I start going at it and saying something, like I think the algorithm really hears me and it tries to block all of this stuff, because we have to really pay attention to this. Because if you haven't watched the video that I put out on Friday about the New Testament and also about suiting up and putting on the full armor of God, you have to go watch it. You have to go watch that video, because I talked about how sometimes when you start speaking the truth online, the attack comes. Your internet just drops and you don't have signal. You can't broadcast the way that you're supposed to. It's crazy. It's actually super crazy. Where I think I'm just going to keep saying the same thing all the time until the message pierces through. So you have to like this, subscribe, bring your friends to come and watch this live stream, because I think I'm just going to go hard. I'm going to find good ways to just say the truth and speak the truth without triggering the algorithm on YouTube specifically. Or maybe I'll have to create different streams for different platforms. But right now I'm looking at the frames, they're dropping again. Why does it happen every single time at the same time? Why? Why? And I always see it happen as soon as I start talking and revealing the truth. It always happens this way. Why? What is going on? Can someone explain what is going on? Because this is not normal. This is good fun. Especially the 24/7 live stream, all the other streams are good. But when I start talking about the truth and saying it publicly, my stream drops, my frames drop, and it starts lagging. It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense. Wow. This is crazy. This is actually crazy stuff. Wow, if they really want me to just skip and not say anything and drown the voice, that's what they're doing. This is crazy. We're fighting real battles here. These are battles that we're fighting. Because other videos are good, like when I talk about just pure stuff without like revealing the truth, like it's fine. But the moments I start talking about all these guys, they are really coming hard. Okay, we keep moving. Okay, so this was the false belief three, the third false belief. So now, what we need to really understand again, like to summarize this, is that weight loss is not the transformation because you have to realize that the habits that you form are what are more important than you just trying to lose weight, taking a GLP-1s because your discipline, if you take GLP-1s, like you won't have the habits. Excuse me. You might see outward results, but inside you still feel empty. You'll realize and know that you got there without forming the right habit. So it's going to be hard for you to hold on. So people tend to now increase the dosage. When they start increasing the dosage, they're going to start seeing the side effects appear more and more. So that's the psychology again that people don't really talk about, like when they take these drugs to try and achieve something that's like outward that you have to judge because the body is a subjective thing to see like okay, is this person losing weight, or are they like putting on weight, are they like attractive or not attractive? So when people try and game the system and try like obsess over how much they weigh or how they look based on results that are coming from a drug, the patterns and the root problems will keep on existing because you're not addressing the root cause. So the real transformation comes when you start doing the things and forming the right habits, and you actually start building a consistent way of approaching life. So it's like, movement, the food choices that you make, how often you recover, and give yourself time to stretch, how you sleep. All of these things are important, and also doing your cardio. These important things that you need to actually start implementing in your life. So when you stop implementing these things, you're going to run into problems, and you will not be happy with the results that you get from even taking a synthetic, like taking a GLP-1, because you really need to pay attention to the things that you do to get there. So that's the thing. And again, like I said, like your appetite, when you suppress it, it's not going to help to teach you structure. The appetite has to be something that you train your body. Just like I said, like if you're trying to gain weight for someone who's skinny, you also have to train your appetite. You have to train your appetite if you're trying to gain weight and when you're trying to lose weight. So you have to build structure around your meals, around self control, around your nutritional understanding, like seek knowledge to understand, like, okay, is this the best food for me? Does this food spike my glycemic index? Because different foods will spike your glycemic index. How often am I fasting? Do I fast like once a week? Do I fast once a month? Do I fast once every 3 months? How are you approaching fasting? Have you thought about fasting? Have you thought about your including a fasting ritual into your own life? Because that's also going to help you train your self-control. That's going to help train your appetite, your control for your appetite if you're someone who's just always eating. Because that's the power of fasting, because you're training discipline. You're training yourself to eat when you have to eat, and train yourself to say, okay, my body, okay, right now it feels hungry, but you're interacting psychologically. You're interacting with those hormones, the ghrelin hormone that's telling you, oh, it's time to eat, right? The cue when it's time for you to eat. So you're interacting with it. But when you feel that, right? You take time, you pray, you fast, you pray, you pause, you write down in your journal, like, okay, this is what I start thinking about when I'm fasting. This is what I start thinking about when I get hungry. So these are things that you can start doing to train yourself instead of going ahead and taking this GLP-1 or peptide. Your hunger, you can train it, right? Just like I said, when your appetite is low, you can also train your appetite to gain weight. And the same thing happens in reverse. You train your appetite, you fast. When you train your body to settle and be okay with being empty with no food in your stomach, it's okay. That's good. And then you learn how to feed it and nourish it after you're done with your fast. So these are all important things that you have to pay attention to. And when you pay attention to them, you realize that your body actually starts listening and starts giving back to you in your life more energy, mental clarity, more endurance, all of these things. You'll start ripping benefits from these practices and you'll lose weight. You'll start feeling happier, more confident. So these are the things that you have to really take control of. And you don't take control of these things using an injection. You have to really pause and think about this carefully, right? So, again, like I said, like a number on a scale is not always the thing that determines if you're healthy or not. So, you have to realize that weight loss itself is just essentially just your body weight dropping. So it could be muscle that you lose, or it could be bone density that you lose. And there are also studies, some people who have shown that, like, some people lose bone density by taking Ozempic. So the question again is, are people losing weight just because the appetite is being suppressed, or Ozempic is also reducing bone density? And we know bone density is a marker for longevity, right? So because as people get older, they develop osteo osteopro. Okay, I'm gonna have a tough time pronouncing this. I remember this, but there's osteoporosis, I think. But it's the issue with the bones, right? Ortho, um, osteo. I think it's osteo. I don't know. You tell me how to pronounce this. Let me check it out. Let's um let's see how you pronounce it. Osteo, because you have, yeah, so it's osteoporosis. Yes, osteoporosis, because you have the osteopath, right? So the osteopath is the one that helps you. So it's osteoporosis. So there you go. So that's what you want to take care of. So we don't know the effects of Ozempic, but we have to keep in mind that these things are real conditions that develop as people get older. And we want to think about, like, okay, what is health? What is longevity? Developing better healthy habits for us to live a healthier life, a long life, healthy long life, right? So because your body is lighter, it doesn't mean that you're healthier, because you still need to build strength and build structure and make sure that you're incorporating a healthy diet, and you're also improving your function, your bodily function, you're stretching, you're moving, because you need all of these functions for your body. These are things that your body does, because you can have weight, but if you're also weak and frail, are you really healthy? You're not healthy. So you want to balance it with training. You have to train. Because if you're someone who's like, okay, you know what? I went to my doctor. He said that, okay, I have to take this medication because I have type 2 diabetes and this is my condition. You have to train, because losing the weight alone is not good enough. Even if you're just looking at weight loss, it's not good enough, because you can become frail, and you don't want to become frail. So you have to strengthen your body. You have to strengthen your muscles. You have to strengthen your ligaments. And at the same time, you want to make sure that your bones are moving and functioning, because likely you spend a lot of time sit down. You have to go on your movement. Your movement patterns have to be worked on. And you have to make sure that you're becoming the person that can lose weight and keep it off. That comes with doing the right things over and over and over again. Right. So these are things that we have to keep in mind. And the other thing that we want to wrap up, again, we talked about how dependency, like when people start losing the weight and they feel like, okay, I need to lose more weight because they're looking, right? Because weight loss is like you've got the scale, but they also look at how they look in the mirror. And that is a subjective thing because someone can say, oh, yeah, you look overweight. Oh, yeah, no, you don't look overweight. Right. So the number on the scale doesn't really determine like if someone is healthy or not. That's number one. And some people now, the brain plays on you, right? This is a real thing, body dysmorphia, where people start thinking that, no, I'm still overweight or I look fat, even though the number on the scale might tell them, like, hey, no, you're good, right? But they might try and overcompensate and take a higher dosage. So the psychology of taking medications, most medications, which are supposed to provide physical benefits, they tend to play on people's minds, especially when it's about appearance, right? Because some people try overdo certain things because they're like, no, I just want more. I just want more. Especially when it comes to like weight, because it's been made such a sensitive topic, especially for women. So we need to realize that our health is not just tied into weight loss, for starters, and the weight loss shouldn't be held up by a medication or like yeah, in this case like GLP-1 and peptide. We should build our health on protein, whole foods, movement, structure, discipline. That's what holds the whole system together. That's what holds the whole system together. And we emphasize protein because a lot of the diets, a lot of the foods don't always have enough protein. And people tend to naturally gravitate towards things like carbs because those are the most available foods in most of society. And those carbs tend to have, different pesticides that were used to grow them. But people tend to not eat enough protein because it's also a bit more expensive. So people tend to eat on a budget and they don't nourish themselves. They don't eat and have those peptides that come from eating their food, the protein synthesis. So the thing that they try and go get in a medication, in a peptide, that is the issue. That is why I also thought that we should add peptides because the protein is essential for us to get the peptides, the building blocks for your amino acids and for your protein. So we need those. We need those. We can't skip that because, yeah, like I just think that there's a point where we just start getting lost as society. And because we're getting lost in these synthetics, like we're feeding the engine that's like poisoning us at the end of the day and giving them money saying, oh, give me that drug. Okay, help me with this. Help me with losing weight. When are we going to wake up? When are we waking up? Because we need to wake up. We need to wake up. We need to wake up. Because now we need to realize that our health includes more things. It's not just losing weight. So, weight loss is not the only thing. I'll prioritize things like stretching, recovery, things like diet, nutrition, eating healthy, over just thinking that, okay, like if I take this drug, I'm going to lose weight, and weight loss is the main thing. Right. So you just have to understand, like, okay, based on your level of activity, how much food should you eat in a day? So having structure around your food, how you eat, and training yourself, training your appetite. Because the appetite, people say, yeah, you can suppress your appetite. No, fast. Learn how to fast. Right. Start with a few hours. Like, okay, push your meals to like the last part of the day, like intermittent fasting, and then maybe do one full day of not eating. And then you can do two, you can do three, you can try like whatever you want to do. But again, you have to do it with caution, with supervision, because if you go for too long without eating, it's also not good because there's a part where your body, if it's not used to that, it will push you and it will make you want to devour and just eat so much. After fasting, it's like a rebound. It's a rebound effect that we call in, like, let's say even like when you talk about bodybuilding and stuff, where people compete for a show, after the show they put on like 60 pounds after they've dieted for like, a couple months. And in actually not, yeah, they put like 60 pounds in like a week or two, right? Like, and it's not normal, it's not healthy for you. So there's a way to do some of this stuff, but there's a way also not to do it. So most of the information that's out there right now, it's tainted. There is a push for people to take these drugs. And by pushing for people to take these drugs, based on what I've seen, based on my experience working in insurance and the health plans that I've seen, the coverage booklets, the renewal packages, the claims experience, and some of the people that I've talked to, and me also going through the experience of, putting on, a bunch of weight and losing that weight, I don't think I would take the GLP-1s or the peptides because there's so much more that goes on in the back end and in the background. So the effects at the end of the day, you realize that it's such a interconnected system, and it's a loop that's like just going round and round, right? Because the first thing is the food that you eat causes some of these problems. And when these problems happen, you put on weight, now you're going back to get these medications. And then you have the media that's also pushing some of these narratives and these things. And that's like a, it's like I look at it like in a way that it's just a spell that's cast on people, right? By repeated narratives and people saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. So we have to wake up and realize that we ourselves, we can take control of this. And we have to make a really intentional decision, right? Because right here, like I think like I've said it again, like protein, whole foods, movement, structure, discipline, like that's what I believe in. That's what actually brings long-term health. And we just have to be consistent, build those rhythms, build those habits that we can repeat day in, day out. That is what you call a lifestyle. Because a lifestyle is not about taking synthetics. Everyone else is taking synthetics and preaching healthy lifestyle. They're just posing, right? They're just posing and they don't really mean it. They just, yeah, exactly. That's what it is. So we have to make a decision. Like, are we going to take a shortcut, or are we going to actually try and build a foundation that actually holds and that actually gets us to get to a destination of long-term health and longevity? And we can hold on and not let go and stay on the right path. So you have to decide, because the foundation, I mean, first of all, the shortcut, again, it's going to lead you to rapid results, right? Quick in, quick out. Rapid results, your appetite is suppressed, can rebound and overdo it, overindulge, and try take more peptides and more GLP-1s, which leads to overdosing. And you might regain when you just stop taking, right? Because you haven't built their habits. The emotional eating still remains. Or the other option, again, is to build the foundation. Be honest with yourself. Start building a diet around whole foods with protein, daily movement, resistance training, repeatable structure, and just making sure that it's something that's sustainable over the long term. So for us, as people who are looking to be healthy for a long time, we have to make this decision. And you can also choose to do this on your own. You can go back to all the other videos that I've been making throughout the week and throughout the weeks, actually. And you can go watch different videos. Tuesday, you can tune in on Tuesday. We talk about nutrition on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we talk about recovery, rest and recovery. On Thursday, we talk about working out, workouts, and for us to see physical results. On Friday, we talk about the faith component, our spirit, our souls, to make sure that we are living a life that we're aligned with God. Like I said, I made a video on spiritual attacks and the battle that we face as believers and as people in this world. And my frame started dropping as I was starting to tell you the truth and revealing more about this because I think the enemy doesn't want us to talk about some of this stuff, but I'm going to push through. I don't care. I'm going to keep pushing through and share this with you. And Fridays, we go deep. We talk about spiritual warfare. We talk about praying. We talk about our faith in Jesus Christ. We talk about all of these things that we have to embrace as believers living in this world that is full of deception, that is full of lies. And we want to actually simplify and just live a life in accordance to what the Bible teaches us and be Christ like. So, this is something that I share so you can join in. Like, if you feel like, okay, there's something that you really want to dig in further. And these are live shows and live broadcasts that I share with you. And I also have the live 24/7 stream that's there. And you can watch. There's a morning session with stretches in the morning. In the afternoon, we talk about fitness, health, lifestyle tips. In the evening, we have more of prayers, stretching for the evening, just for us to like unwind and reclaim our evenings. And that's stuff that you can engage with, the content that you can engage with. And one of the things is make sure to like, share, and subscribe because YouTube has to be told. And all these platforms, wherever you're watching from, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, wherever it is, make sure to like, share, subscribe. Even if it's like Twitch or Kick, like everywhere, Rumble. Like make sure you are liking, you are sharing, you are following and subscribing because it will tell the platform that you want to see more of this content. And this will help us come together. And we want this community to grow and bring more people together because we want to make sure that we stay true and the channel is supported. And that also avoids you have advertisers, people who come from the outside that want to be part of this and have a say in what we can say and what we can't say. And we don't want that to happen. We want to stay free, have a voice that's free. Me personally, I have things that I've seen happen through time, and I don't want that. I'll say no. And I think one of the most important things is for us to continuously be together. If you're like someone who's like enjoy this content, who watches this content, that is the free thing that you can help with is just to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're someone who's like, okay, I want to support the channel and the mission, you can go to the store, support the mission in the store. And if you also like, Nate, I like everything that you're saying, but I personally really need support and help. I'm thinking of taking a GLP-1. I'm thinking of taking a peptide. Like I need support. Like I need more support. Send me a message to my email or sign up. There's a link in the description. Click the link, sign up for one-on-one coaching. Send me your application, and we can have a conversation because I don't like if at any point you're thinking of taking GLP-1s or peptides, click the link in the description, the one-on-one coaching link. Click it, send it to me. We'll schedule a conversation. We can have a conversation to really understand like what is going on. And again, this is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor, but I think for some people who are looking for lifestyle solutions, we can figure something out. And if you're not a diabetic, if you don't have a medical condition, you're just looking to lose weight, send me an application with details. It's not long, probably take you like 15 minutes to fill out, and even 5 minutes. Yeah, send me an application, and then I'll look at it, and then we can schedule a conversation so that we actually realize like, okay, what's the plan that you need. We'll have like more of a strategy for you, because the important thing is building a strategy for yourself, a 5-10 year health strategy, and not just look for these quick wins, right? Because your life, again, when you take these injections and peptides and synthetics, what what you have to realize is that your life goes through seasons, and there are going to be seasons where you can actually train and go to the gym while you're trying to reach your goals, and then there are periods in life where things just get busy, where you can't actually get to the gym or maybe eat the same way that you're eating. And that means that if you're dependent on synthetics are not going to hold you through that period. And these drugs are definitely not going to hold you through that period. So you have to really understand the fundamentals, and we have to bring it in and narrow the timeline for you personally. If you really want something that's custom to really get to where you want and make sure that those results stick, we have to narrow that time. And for you to feel that, hey, I can actually do it, because your body's not broken. Your body's not broken. It's just the systems that you have in place, the structure that you have in place is what's missing. It's what's broken. So we have to figure out like, okay, where is your life right now? Where do you want your life to be? That's what we really need to understand and break it down. And the moment we do that, I think a lot of people will start seeing more results. And I can share with you exactly what I did when I lost the 60 pounds in 6 months. I can share it with you. And it's still, I just haven't gained that weight. Like I'm not bulky. I think the most that I got to was like 170 as well, from like 140, of which 140 was like lean, like under 10%. Like I would get cold, right? So that's what we need to do. And now I'm like 155, 160, depending on, the day, the week. But that's the weight that I feel most comfortable at, and I can move. I feel like, okay, I'm good. I'm limber. I can move. If you tell me like let's sprint, I can probably sprint. I can probably beat you. But maybe I mean, it depends on how fast you are. Um but yeah, like I think you have to be like in a position where you're like feeling good about yourself, right? Like you're not fat, you're not overweight, but you're good, you're healthy, because health is wealth. So fam, thank you for joining me. I think the stream, I'm going to work on the stream as well for today, because tomorrow, like I was seeing like the frames are dropping, like the times that I actually started talking about the things that matter the most, the stream starts trying to drop and trying to kill the vibe. Why? Why? So, so anyway, so we're gonna figure this thing out. So tomorrow, hopefully, once we get going this week, like I sort this out. I think I figured out already one thing, but I think I'll continuously work on this to make sure that the stream is smoother and we don't have some of these hiccups as we go. So, but as always, like I appreciate you, and I think this is a very important thing for us to discuss. And I appreciate everything that you're doing. So again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Make sure more people see this. The platform has to know that you enjoy watching this video or you want to watch this video. and for us to grow. And it makes it worthwhile, right? Because I think, for me, at the end of the day, like I'm still going to record the videos and just say what I'm saying, regardless. But I think it really helps a lot when, the platform sees that people like this content as well. And I can also figure out, like, okay, what are the topics that you want to hear from me? So when you like it, that's how I'll look at it. See, okay, people like this video, people share this video, then I can make more of that video. I mean, the content and topics, right, that you enjoy. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, and let's let the platform know that you enjoy the content and enjoy the video. So, fam, I think that is us for today. So, I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Peace out.